Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nixie coming back with another bullseye of a video here today on the channel. So this is gonna be the very first episode of my free full-length course on how to take hip-hop production from the tippity top to the finish line. So, if you guys do want to see any more type of this content, I'm actually going to be making a private group as well, where I go over like different genres and full mixes and all that stuff. Usually with YouTube, I'm only restricted to like the algorithm and everything. You got to be very specific with YouTube. So I only talk about vocal mixing, but vocal mixing is pretty important when it comes to rap music, because usually you're working with like a 2-track beat and everything like that. But this is going to be a little bit more in depth, where we go over how to make the beat, how to mix it, how to set up the microphone, the interface, all of the basics. Usually I never talk about the basics. So even if you're somebody starting out, or you're somebody who already knows everything, it's always good to revisit back to the basics. This is kind of gonna be my perspective on, the fundamentals of hip hop music and everything like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's not waste no time. So usually, just to make this course a little bit faster, I actually reached out to my friend, Rick Anthony, who he made a custom loop just for this course for us. So usually when it comes to something like making the melody and everything like that, once I have the melody made, I like to play the melody. I like to let the music talk to me. And in the process of me doing that, I'm also listening to kind of like letting the music talk to me, telling me what lyrics I'm going to say, also what the song is going to be about, and also what type of drums I'm going to lay down. The melody usually is going to tell you how much space it is that you can fit in with the drums. You never want the drums to really, take up all of the space, because the rapper still has to get in there. You know what I mean? So pretty much, the whole beat is kind of like a car. The whole song is kind of like a car. I still got to make sure that there are some seats for the ad-libs, the lead vocals, some effects, and all that other things that the actual artist will be putting in there. When I was a little kid and I used to make beats, I always used to fill up the whole beat. There was no space for anything in that beat. But as I got older, a little bit more mature at making music, especially hip-hop music, I just realized that, hey, you got to leave a little bit of space for the rapper. So let's listen to the melody how I usually do, and let's look at the process of letting the music talk to you and telling you what you have to put in there. So I really like this loop a lot. Shout out to Rick Anthony for making this loop. It's very different loop. It's like a galaxy type of weird alien type of loop. So I really like that a lot, and shout out to him. So usually, I can pay attention to the loop, just hearing everything, hearing all the sounds in here, and I can't make it too active, of course. And we also got to pay attention to something like the arrangement. So the arrangement is pretty important. This is not a stone cold rule, but usually when it comes to the verses, you want the verses to be a little bit open, not too much melody, so the rapper could come in there, do different flows. He could switch a flow up. He could do all this crazy stuff, like a rapper usually does. And usually the hook is kind of like somewhere where the artist will be a little bit more consistent. The hook is usually more inviting. You usually want the hook to be bigger, more epic. So that's kind of like a basic thing I like to do. I like to have more activity inside of the hooks, but less activity inside of the verses. But still, there's little changes right here and there, just so it never sounds like a loop. It sounds like a story that's being told. It sounds like kind of like when you go to a restaurant, the chef, he's displaying the food to you in a certain order. The chef doesn't come out right away with the dessert. No, he comes out with the salad first, then the steak, then the dessert. So the same thing applies to being a producer. How are you showing the listener the music? You know what I mean? How are you showing the rapper, okay, this is where I got to be here, and there. Okay, and that is very important with the drums. So let's listen to, how the drums came out. So as you can hear, the drums, you know, they aren't doing too much in general. You know, they're allowing for the rapper to come in there, have some space, and also be the main highlight, because usually the artist is the main highlight. You don't ever want people to be like, oh man, that's such a great beat, but what about, like, and they completely forget about the rapper, which is you, because you are the rapper. You know, you're trying to do a full-length production. So this should always be about highlighting you, you know what I mean? Your life and your message and your perspective. So you hear that when the verse starts right over here, you hear there's way less of everything. Now there's like a gaping space. So that's important when you're making a beat. You gotta ration your skills. You know, you gotta ration your energy. Kind of like LeBron James. He already knows he's got 4 quarters of a game to play. Just like you as an artist, you know, trying to do something like this, you gotta know there's 4 quarters. There's a bunch of different quarters. There's the, you know, making the beat, recording, mixing, mastering. So you gotta preserve your energy. You can't be running full speed in the first quarter, because by the end of the quarter, you know, by the end of the game, you're gonna be burnt out. You're gonna be tired. So I didn't really do too much, you know. And I have one of my really good friends, Prod by Sissel, shout out to him. He always told me a secret. He said, Nick, hey man, if you want to have good beats, you gotta just pick the best sounds. There's no secret to it. It's your ear. Your ear is the secret to it. You know, how you hear stuff, that's what's gonna help you get that sauce. So the main thing about like the 808s and everything like that is they're already pre-compressed, they're pre-processed, pre-saturated. All of that stuff is already, you know, cooked, it's seasoned, it's already there for you. All you gotta do is pick the best stuff and put it into the beat. So that comes to something that I like to do with my very first thing, which is the 808. And the 808, I always love to play around with the quick fade out, because sometimes the 808 might have the perfect tone, it might have the perfect knock, but then it's a little bit too long. And if it's too long, it's gonna ruin the vibe, you know, especially if you have an 808 coming doing that roll like how I did it. If the 808 have been too long, it would have not sounded good. So what I usually like to do too is, you know, find like a free MIDI scale thing. Don't buy Unison chord pack, please don't. But you get the scales, right? And you put it into the sampler, and you make sure that you pick the right scale of the loop, right? Which is E minor. So I picked E minor scale, I dragged it in there. And now I have a situation where when I'm looking at the ghost notes, you know, for the 808, so let's say I go over here to the 808, like I have all of these grids right here, and I'm only picking like notes that are inside of the scale of the actual loop. So, you know, I also tune the 808. We all know how to do that. You know, you right click, you go to audio editor, you put this, detect pitch regions, and bam, we already know this information. Cool. But the main thing too with the sampler and everything like that, you know, making sure that you understand the scales and everything like that. So, you know, in a situation, this is what I'll do. You know, you just put it on the sampler so you don't really have to see it or anything like that. But the main thing is that it's gonna let you see the ghost notes. So when you see the ghost notes, you're only hitting the notes in the actual scale. So, you know, sometimes you might have the 808 already fully tuned and all that, but you're not hitting the right notes of the music. So it's gonna sound off key and everything like that. But when you do it like this, 808 tuned, and then you also have the little ghost notes like what I just showed you right there. You know, you're only hitting the notes inside of the scale, and the 808 is becoming more melodic. The bass is becoming more melodic. So yeah, you know, pretty much that's what we have. And when it comes to the actual kick as well, you know, I just picked the best kick. You know, as I'm listening to the music, I'm clicking through all the samples like this, like, you know, I'm picking through all the samples and trying to hear what fits the music the best. Like if you pause the music and you aren't hearing the music, you just pick, oh, that sounds like a good sample on its own, you know, it's not going to be very cohesive. It's not going to work together. And that's what you want a beat to do. You want everything to work together. You know, that's what you want music to do in general. So with the kick, you know, it's only coming up once in every while, just kind of accenting the 808. It's not really on top of it every single time. With the clap, I just picked the best clap sample. And with the kick, you know, I'm listening to kick and bass, and I'm playing around with this quick fade out. So they kind of both had the same amount of the quick fade out, you know, just to kind of like give it a nice little groove. Then we had something like the hi-hat as well, you know, not too brash or nothing like that. And, you know, with the hi-hat, I panned it to the left as well. You know, drummer's perspective, usually it's just something about putting the hi-hat to the left. I always do that. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules to anything. I'm just showing you the very basics. And then with the quick fade out, I didn't want the hi-hat to be too long and everything like that. You see how long that is and everything like that. But when you have that, you know, you're just putting less sustain is the word. So now it's quicker, everything can groove and move a little bit together. You know, it's kind of like if you were trying to dance, the music is trying to dance, but then somebody comes behind it and is holding it. well, the music isn't going to be able to move and be energetic how it wants to be if something is holding it back, so that's usually like the time it lets go of it and everything like that. Then I have like a reverse, hat and everything like that, just to give it more vibe, more groove, more movement. And we have my backup snare, just really going through everything and just pretty much picking the best sounds and everything like that, like really complement the music. So once I've got everything like this, what I like to do is I like to export the track outs. But let's check the mixer really quickly. There's absolutely nothing on the mixer, just a little bit of that good old FL Studio soft clipper. I wish I was able to use it in Pro Tools, but hey, this world ain't perfect. So the thing about the FL Studio soft clipper, I just love using it to give some of that saturation, some of that juice, some lemon pepper, honey garlic type of seasoning to the drums and everything like that, the whole mix. So the kick has a soft clipper, the 808 has a soft clipper, and after that, look, just nothing else, literally just straight up leveling and panning. All the faders are at 0. I don't like to play around with the faders. I usually just like to use this input trim right here, and that's pretty much everything that's hitting, the master fader. So I'm just ramming the whole music inside of the soft clipper, and it's just giving you more juice. I just love how the soft clipper sounds. So once we got everything right here, what I do is highlight all of the music. Then I go to File, Export, all playlist tracks. We create a new folder and we would let everything get put in there. So the main thing about this when everything is exporting is you want to make sure that you're not missing any tracks. You want to make sure that all of the music is there, because as soon as you start to get into the mode, the mindset of actually recording and everything like that, you don't want to be like, oh man, I gotta go all the way back and go get that sample, I forgot it, or it's gonna mess up your vibe. And that's the most important thing, is keeping yourself in a vibe, keeping yourself flowing, keeping the creative energy flowing. It's kind of like a river. Once a river starts flowing, at no point in time does the river go backwards and be like, hey, I gotta go pick up that rock, or I gotta go pick up that tree or that little twig that I forgot. A river never stops. So your creative energy has to be like a river. It has to keep continuously flowing and going, and at all costs can you never ever lose that flow, that vibe. Once you start feeling good and I'm listening to the beat, I might pull out my iPhone and start freestyling a little bit, freestyling, getting some of those flows in there and recording it as I'm inside of my vibe. So when I start writing the actual music and the rap, well, I'm just going off of the flow, the vibe, those initial creative ideas. The first ideas are so beautiful. They're kind of like the first kiss. They're always so special and organic. You know what I mean? It's like the first kiss with the beat, and then, once I got the track outs bounced out, what I like to do is I like to export a 2-track beat. And exporting a 2-track beat is always going to be something that's very important, because, once you're actually rapping, you don't want to see all of those files and all of that stuff like that. You want to just to have a simple 2-track beat where you can just record, and, you're not trying to get too in depth, trying to balance this and while you're rapping. You just want to rap and focus on just rapping, okay? So then this is going to be the 2-track beat. And the most important thing too, what you want to do is put the scale, okay? You don't want to go back and say, oh, what scale is the beat, when you're trying to apply your auto tune. Also put in the tempo of the music, so you have that too. And then last thing is the sample rate. So you have all of those things right there, everything looks good to go, and you click save and you bounce out the 2-track beat. So I'm really excited to bring you guys this course. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the interface, how I like to set up the interface, but also the microphone as well, and get the basic session started up. So if you guys do have any more questions or comments or concerns, go ahead and drop it down below. I'm really happy to see you guys in the next episode. Peace.